says that they have a PayPal account and they have money in their PayPal, can they use their statement from a PayPal account to show as proof of funds?
Ideally, the best option would be for you to transfer that money into your own account and use it. That if you have money in your PayPal account, that can be an addition, but I wouldn't recommend main proof of your proof of funds. You can use it as an extra to a bank account or to any treasury bill, stocks, bonds that you have already.
Without wasting time, let's just get down to it. So, Angela, can you please introduce yourself to us? Let's hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Ogundele. I'm a licensed immigration consultant. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And Zeno is my friend. You're all lucky to have her because she gives you all this information for free. She just lashes everything to you guys. So that is all about myself. I'm based called Thorold in Canada. And I'm about 2 hours away from Zeno.
Yeah.
So that is all about myself. Today we're going trying to answer your questions. We're going to talk about the floating rate and how it impacts you if you already have.
I'm going to explain what a consultant is, because many of them, they are so used to having agents. Agents is doing, as I look for one agent is holding me hostage. If somebody said an agent took a passport, please, how can I get my passport back from an agent, right? So, an immigration consultant in Canada is not an agent. I just want you guys to know that there's a difference. Okay, people are saying network.
Yeah. It keeps freezing for some reason.
Yeah.
No, but that's fine. We'll get through.
Okay. So now let's get down to business. What is proof of funds? Because a lot of people, they hear proof of funds, and some people don't even know what is proof of funds or what the relevance of proof of funds is. So let's just get down to it. What's proof of funds?
Okay, so proof of funds are the resources that you show to let the Canadian government know how much you have to settle in Canada. So really, it is a table or a document or resources that shows how much you need to settle in Canada. And the proof of funds is updated every year, so the numbers change every year. So the numbers for 2022 as 2023. Inflation would affect the proof of funds. A change in government will affect the proof of funds, but really it's based on a 50% of the low income cutoff totals in Canada. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but it's just like the lowest amount you need to actually live life month to month. It's calculated into 1 year, and that is what you're required to show. So basically, that is what proof of funds is. And proof of funds is not only money, because I know that is also one thing people tend to be like, oh, but I have 20 million in my account. No, proof of funds is not just you showing that you have a certain amount of money in your account. So it's every resource that you have to show that you're able to settle in Canada or stay in Canada for a specific period of time without getting social assistance or welfare. So basically, that is what proof of funds is.
Okay. So that tells us why it's important. You need to survive in Canada without like relying on the government for assistance, right? So that's why it's important.
Yes. So the first thing I gave you was the definition of proof of funds. Then it is important because especially for those that are coming in as students, the government needs to know that when you come into the country, you won't fly to claim refugee, or you won't begin to claim social assistance or welfare. So they should know that you are able to sustain yourself while you're in school. Even when you are allowed to work while you're in school, they still want to know that you have school fees. They want to know that you have the money to take care of. What happens is that when you come in, take care of yourself, your house rent, your feeding, people begin to apply for something that is called destitute students. So the lack of proof of funds in your account leads you to becoming a destitute student, whereby you begin to apply for welfare and apply for social assistance. And the government really doesn't want you to. It's also not even helpful. At the end of the day, you come in and you're stressed out, right? You're stressed out. It's every resource that you need to show that you take care of yourself. And everybody applying is like you're traveling from Lagos even to Kano. You need money to stay in a hotel or to rent a place over there. You need money to eat. So that is really what it is. Like, you can't be going to a new country where you don't know anybody, or even though you know people. Now, I talked about destitute students. That doesn't mean you should, because I see people typing that now. That doesn't mean you should start
They are
up now.
echoing you. They are echoing you.
And come on, I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll get to Canada. I'll go and apply as a debt. Please don't do that. It is only for people that fall into that category for very serious reasons. A student comes in and they lose their dad, their mom. They don't have money anymore to survive. That is when you apply. Please don't apply to school and say,
Let it not be your plan. That should not be your plan.
that's not what it is for. So,
Let
so
me go to Canada and become a destitute student.
So that is why it is important, and everybody needs it. You're coming in as an international student, postgraduate diploma, secondary school, high school, masters, even when you have funds, right? Even when you have a scholarship, right? And the scholarship covers your tuition and your upkeep. You still need to show that if anything were to happen and that scholarship is no longer available, that you have money. Then also, you cannot apply. So everybody needs it. Students, if you're coming in as a federal skilled worker, if you're coming in as even those that are schooled here and are applying under the Canadian Experience class, you need to show proof proof of funds. And okay, let me just correct that. For the Canadian Experience class, if you've schooled here, you're not required to show that you have that money in your account when you have a job. Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments and they're just funny. When you have a job, you're not required to show that. I think the next big question is how much, can I apply for a visa without proof of funds?
Yeah, before we go
No.
there, let's talk about how to calculate proof of funds. Because a lot of people
How
don't
to
even
calculate?
know how much they need. So they're not able to budget, they're not able to plan. So how do you calculate proof of funds? How much should they need to study?
Okay, so the IRCC, that is the Canadian government, they require that you have your complete tuition and $10,000 extra for yourself. Now, then this is what they put on their website. I'm going to give you a rough calculation. You're paying your rent. Let's say you're sharing. The minimum you can pay for rent if you're sharing a house with 4 people is about $500 every month. That's like even a ridiculous rate right now. So $500 every month times 12 is $6,000 already. Then you have your upkeep. Say you spend $200 every month on food. You would spend more, but I'm just giving like the minimum that you spend. That's 2,400 plus $6,000. That's already 8,400. If your school does not provide you with a bus pass, you need a bus pass, right? Depending on what province you're in and how far your school is from home. That could be between $300 to $500 for either a school year or for 1 month, depending. If you're a fly student and you have a car, you buy a car when you come in. I know it's true now. If you're a
Fly student.
you have to pay insurance, you have to pay gas and all that. So really, $10,000 at the end of the day is not really enough for you alone. So you that at least have 15,000. The recommendation is 10, but if you have 15, that is fine. Then if you're coming in with your family, you're coming in with your spouse and your children, depending on how many children you have. For your spouse, the recommendation is 4,000, but I tell people that you should have at least 6. So whatever the minimum is, just push it up by sorry, is that comment that this is in Canada is better than a free prisoner in Nigeria. Anyways, but so for your spouse, the recommendation is $4,000, but I recommend 6,000. If you have children, recommendation is $3,000, but I recommend 5. So for example, if you're coming with your spouse and you have one child, that will be $10,000. This $10,000 is outside your. If you've not paid your school fees, you have to add whatever your tuition is to that amount. So $10,000 plus 6 plus 5, that would give you 21,000. Now, if you have 4 children or if you have 5, you know that the money that you need would increase, right? So that is basically the calculation that the government of Canada uses. So for one singular person, you know that you need at least $21,000. That is outside your school fees. So depending on how much your school fees is, you're going to add that to the total amount of money that you need.
Okay. Okay, so this brings us to the next question, Karen. Now that we know how much we need, what if I don't have that money? Can I just apply for visa? Maybe I'll just risk it and say maybe immigration officer will not see
it. No, if you don't have that money, you can't risk it, because you have to show a bank statement, you have to show stocks, you have to show bonds, you have to show maybe like a treasury bill. So it's a no. Like if you don't have, you can get a loan, right? If you don't have the money and you really want to study, you can apply for a loan. There are many financial institutions that provide loans to students. So you can apply for a loan, but you also, in your submission for your application, you also need to let them know how you plan to pay back the loan.
Okay.
Right? So you could have maybe a property that you've used as a hold for that loan that you've taken, but you should include plans you have to pay off the loan. But you definitely need to show proof of funds when applying. You can't apply for a visa, for a study visa, without it. Even when you have scholarships, you still need to show some money in your bank account or in your spouse's bank account if you're married.
Okay. Somebody asked me this question a while ago. So let's say that the amount, this is an assumed figure. Let's say only the students alone, the amount they need to show as proof of funds is $30,000. So using that $30,000 as proof of funds, they have approved the student's visa. The student applied the loan, they approved the student's visa. The student now wants to apply for her spouse and her children. She's now using that same $30,000 as proof of funds for, will it fly?
No, it won't. You can't do that. You have to show additional money, because when you submit an application, everything they're looking at is that first application that you've submitted. The money you show, everything, because you would have written in your submission that this is just for you. Now, decide to now later you've had your own visa and you want to apply for a spousal open work permit for your spouse or even a visit visa, you have to show additional funds. You can't use the same thing because then it's not going to fly. Now your 30,000 you've said is for one person. You are now allocating that 30,000 to two other people. So now that's three people for that same amount of money. It won't fly. You have to show more money.
Okay. So this is the big question. I've been seeing this question flying all over the place. These people cannot wait. Now, this new floating exchange rate. So this applies to the people that are joining us from Nigeria. Now, the government has said that the exchange rate is floating, right? So let's look at it from two angles. How does it affect like the calculation, the conversion when they are converting their money to Canadian dollar? So generally, and for people that have already submitted the application, but they've not gotten their visa, so the application processing, and they already use the whatever CBN rates. So let's look at answer the question from two parts, generally, and for people that already have the application in progress.
Okay, so unfortunately, there's no lock-in rate, right? You would like, and what I mean by lock-in rate is that you can't say, oh, I submitted my application 3 months ago, so I already used that rate. And if you even look at the IRCC website, they've already updated it. If you have your application already in the system, depending on how much money you have in your bank account, what you need to do is to calculate it based on the new rate. And it's just because it's a floating rate, it could change every second, every minute, every day. So you can't even say this is the rate. And that's why it's good to leave that extra room to have more money instead of having exactly what they're asking for. So for those that their application is already in the system, what you need to do is to see how much you had calculated before. You need to go back to the new rates. I think it starts from June 30th, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to use whatever new rate and submit a web form. If you have more money, that is great. If you don't have more money, all you have to do is to just still submit the web form and explain your situation. But the ideal thing would be to add more money to whatever you have and submit a web. Just a little summary of what the situation is. For those that are yet to submit application, of course, you have to use the new rate. It's floating. You might want to submit your application today and it's $690. Tomorrow is $850. So the best option is just to have more than you need. You know how I said that I usually would give a like space for extra. They're asking for 10. I tell people to have 15. In that way, the rates would not impact you so much because you already have that wiggle room for more money for yourself, for your spouse, for your children, if you have children.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So what I normally tell people is that in their study plan, when they calculate their rates, they should just put whatever rate they have used and put the website where they calculate it and the dates, just so that if you are not updating it, the IRCC will know that, okay, this person calculated their rate. This was what the rate was
based
on
on
this date.
that.
Yeah, just so that they will know, because this rate, it seems like it's giving people a lot of headaches. So somebody asked a question about the UK yesterday. I know that you basically focus on Canada, right? But I think they were also wondering how this rate also would affect the UK. I think that it would be the same thing for people that are trying to go to the UK in terms of the exchange rates. I heard a pound is now like 1,000 naira to 1 pound.
It's possible. And that's the thing. And it's still going to be the same thing. The Canadian dollar is actually is lower than the USD, and it's also lower than the euro and the British pound. So you just have to follow the same rule. You need to know what the rate is. There are some websites that you can look at. I can find those websites and give them to you. But there are some websites that you can use to see what the rate is. But if you're looking for Canada, I would recommend that you use the IRCC website to see what the rate is on the date. And when you go on the website, just scroll down to the bottom of the website to see the last date that website was modified, right? You know how you just scroll down to the bottom of the website and you see date modified. So if you see, say you go to the website and it's showing May, it's showing the 1st of May 2022 or 2023, for example, then you know that that information is not current, because we see that things are changing every day. One day the rate is this, the next it changes, right? So that would be.
Okay, so now let's say that I'm running a business and I decide that I want to use my business account as proof of funds. But you know how businesses are now, you keep moving money in and out. I need money to run my business, right? So I just keep the money there and use it to submit my visa application. The moment I submit my visa application, is it okay for me to just move the money and go back to normal and move all the money out, use it to run my business, use it to run my importing and exporting business? I have no money there. Or what do I do? Angela, are you in your basement?
No, I'm upstairs.
Okay, because the network keeps rolling.
Oh, okay. Not sure why. Is it still doing that? Is it okay now?
Well, let's see. Did you do something? Because it just rolled now. But did you do something? Did you change your network?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's see now. It hasn't happened since, but let's see.
Okay, so you can't do that. You need to have, now you might use part of the money and bring it back in, showing that in and out. You're not able to just take all that money out, because sometimes they could send you a letter called a PFL. What that letter is just, they don't trust a document that you've provided. They could ask you to send it again, or they could actually contact your bank. It's called a procedural fairness letter. You usually receive that letter if they just don't want to refuse your application, and they're giving you a chance to explain yourself or explain the situation. But it's not ideal to move all your money from your bank account out after you've submitted your application. Once in a while, they could check. They don't do that all the time, but sometimes they actually do check.
Okay, so what if my visa has been approved? So let's say that I'm resuming school in September and now it's May and my visa has been approved in May and I plan to come in August. Before I come in August, can I move that money? I have to still have the money and maybe print my bank statement so that at the point of entry, I can show them if in case the visa officer asks me, or at that, because my visa is approved, can I just clear the account?
With current trends, I would say no. And that's just because now that there's a trend where you people come in and either they don't go to school or they're not able to pay their school fees. So the recommendation is to have the money in your account until you get here. Having a visa doesn't mean that you're cleared. The only time you're cleared is when you've left the airport in Canada and you to your hostel or your
Once you have entered, say that maybe this, I don't enter, that's last.
that's only you're cleared, because at the airport anything could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. So say for example you were asked to pay your tuition by September, no, let's use August 3rd. You're coming August 1st. At the port of entry, a CBSA officer has the right to ask you why you've not paid your tuition, and they want to see the money that you intend to use to pay your tuition. Sometimes if you already have a Form A going, and now Form A doesn't even really matter anymore anyways, because it's the same rate, right? So if you have a Form A going, you can actually print that and have a copy to show. But yes, having your visa, that visa only allows you to come into at the airport. Anything can happen. It is usually at the airport that you get the study permits to actually go to school and study. So having that stamp, and of course, if you use an agent in Nigeria at the airport, you would know if your visa is fake or if it's real. that when
Just
that is
imagine
when you
if it's when you
then you at that point you also know if you're an engineer or you're a doctor, because you don't know what your agent puts in. When they
exactly.
type
Yeah,
name,
many
everything
people they
comes
don't know
out, and you begin to know things about yourself that you didn't even know,
in front
and
of
all
the
that
visa office.
can happen at the airport. So yeah, you need so yeah, until you reach your home or your hostel, you can't fully say that you've landed in.
Yeah. It's so funny because that's when you know if you're a doctor or an engineer.
It's
Because
true now.
these agents, they do all sorts. The kind of stories that I've heard, sometimes I wonder, like, wow, what's going on here? Okay. So
Yeah,
someone's
at the
asking
airport,
that
and
somebody says that they have a PayPal account and they have money in their PayPal. Can they use their statement from a PayPal account to show as proof of funds?
um ideally, the best option would be for you to transfer that money into your own account and use it. That if you have money in your PayPal account, that can be an addition, but I wouldn't recommend main proof of your proof of funds. You can use it as an extra to a bank account or to any treasury bill, stocks, bonds that you have already. But I won't use only that as
Proof of funds. Okay. So what else can I use to show proof of funds? So let's say, is it only money in my bank account? Are there other things that I can use to show as proof of funds, even if it's not currently liquid cash in my bank account?
no, and I've been calling a few as I was talking. You can use stocks, you can use bonds, you can use pension, you can use bank drafts, you can use money orders, you can use anything that you're able to turn into liquid cash immediately. So say, for example, you have I don't know what they call it in Nigeria anymore, but you know how you invest money in something and it rolls over every 30 days or
Fixed
every
deposit.
60
Is it
days.
fixed deposit?
Yes, thank you. You can use your fixed deposit as well, and the interest
Okay.
that you have on them. If you have a business, you can use your business account as well. Pension, usually they'll just give you a document that shows how much you have in your pension, or how much your husband has or your father has or whatever. So it's not just liquid cash. Stocks, bonds, debentures, treasury bills, fixed deposits, bankers drafts, checks. You can use any of those.
Okay, so what if I have a mansion in Abuja and I've gone to meet estate agents and say, please help me value this my mansion. They value my mansion at 100 million naira. Then I'll now put that thing and say, IRCC, when you approve my visa, I will sell this my mansion and it will give me 100 million. Can I use that?
You can you can use that as an
I can use that
right.
as
You
what?
can
I didn't hear. We can use that as what?
as an addition. You can't use that as your only proof of funds. It won't fly, because of course it's going to take you time to sell off your property and get the money, and there are just a lot of things with the lawyers and all that. So you can't only use um, um, any assets that you might have, and all those deed of conveyance, or whatever, I don't know what they call it in Nigeria. You can't use only that. It's a combination of different resources that you can put together. Same also, you can't use only your bank account. Even if you have 120 million in your bank account, you can't use only your bank account, because that money would have been a loan, it could have been borrowed from. It has to be a combination of all these resources. At least 2 or 3 of them put together would be ideal.
Okay, so let's take questions from the audience. Wow, we have 40 something questions. I'm just going to run through them quickly because I know that for some of them, we would have answered some of them during this live session. So let's start from the bottom. Okay, so we explained already how to calculate proof of funds, because someone is saying you're on fully funded scholarship. How do you calculate proof of funds? We already talked about that. You calculate how much do you need, how much do you have, you check for the difference, and you have the rest in your bank account. Hi, I want to purchase a GIC, but my country, Kenya, is not in the SDS program. How do I get it? So I think they're trying to apply via the student direct.
Apply direct stream, yeah. So if you know somebody in Canada that you trust, you can ask them to help you get the GIC. That would be the only way, and you'd move the money from your bank account to the bank account here. Or you can even contact financial institutions directly, and they'll tell you their process and how they can help you. But please, when you're contacting a financial institution, make sure it's not a dummy financial institution. There is an actual one. But the best way is when you have somebody here, or you know somebody here, and you ask them to help you. That's usually the best.
Okay.
The account will still be opened in your name. It won't be in the person's name. It will be in your name. So.
Okay. This question just came to mind because somebody had asked me a while ago. So let's say that my family is gathering Osusu for me to study abroad. So maybe my brother, my sister, my father, my mother, maybe 4 people have come together to put this money that I need. How can I show this as proof of funds? Do they all need to transfer the money to me, or will I get letter of sponsorship from 4 people? How is it going to work out if I'm using multiple sponsors?
So the best way, so if it's a family sponsorship, the best way would be to have, so say for example, you know that December of 2024. Right now, you would have everybody begin to pay the money into one person's account or 2, right? Into either your mom's account or your dad's account or your brother's account. They begin to pay that money into that account, and over time, right, the money is building up. So that person, probably they have a job or they have a business or whatever they have, they can give you a letter of sponsorship and show that bank account. It's just a neater way to you 4 bank statements. And usually if you do applications like that, there's a bias, and the bias is they don't think you can afford it, since it's the whole community that is sending you to school. So so there's usually so it's better to just direct all that stream of income to one person and have that one person handle it. I think it would work that way.
Okay, so what if that one person, so let's say that the one person that is sponsoring, your sponsor is supposed to show their bank statement and their source of income. So let's say, what if it's not realistic for that one person, looking at that one person's source of income, for him to have that money? So let's say somebody that earns $300,000, 300,000 naira every month, is now saying, I'm going to sponsor this person with 20 million. Like, how? It just doesn't make it's not realistic, right? For somebody with that kind of money to be giving another person 20 million.
With something like that, you can So if there are 4 or 5 of them, you would look at the person that has the most weight. But if all of them are the same, then of course a letter would suffice. In that situation, I would recommend that that person pays their tuition in full ahead for that type of um, situation. You won't go, oh, the school didn't ask me, I'm not going to pay tuition because it's not recommended. But what if anything happens to all these people that are bringing this money? Then what happens to you at the end of the day, right? So or maybe 2 of them instead of using one. In this situation, you'd use 2. But when it's getting to 3, I think that is one too many.
Okay, okay. How much is classified as bulk money in one's account? It's a lump sum. Lump sum. That
Lump sum.
statement is very bogus. Because many people don't say, they just say lump sum, but nobody knows, people don't know what is lump sum.
You know what? Lump sum can even be as low as 100, 200,000 naira. It's that bad. So, for example, in your account, the highest money that has come in is 5,500 or 10,000. All of a sudden, 6 months when you're coming to school, people are paying in 100,000, 200,000. So it could be 200,000, 500,000, 1 million, 8 million, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. So it just depends on what your transactions have been. So if it's someone that usually would have 10 million, 20 million in their account here and there, 30 million going into the account wouldn't be considered as a lump sum, because the history of that account shows that they've been having that type of money. So lump sum is really based on what your transactions have been in the past months, what your maximum has always been, and the random hike that comes bank account, really. So that's what. So there's no minimum, there's no maximum. It's just based on your transactions and how much you've had coming in the past.
Okay. Okay, so more questions. Can I submit my visa application now for September intake? Hope it's not too late.
No, it's not. It's the processing time is 7 weeks, and if you're doing the NSE, the Nigerian Student Express, or the SDS, it's actually been like 3 days. Somebody submitted on the 16th, and they did their biometrics. Sorry, on the 16th, and they got their visa today.
Okay, talking about biometrics, a lot of people recently have complained. You know, normally when you submit your visa application in like 24 to 48 hours, they send you biometrics letter. But a lot of people lately have complained, I submitted last week, no biometrics letter. Is it something that is happening now? Is it common, or should they be worried? Should they? Because many of them are panicking.
No, you shouldn't be worried. But if it's more than 10 days, I would recommend you send a web form. Then also to see what you imputed. Because sometimes you could make, you know how they would ask you, have you done biometrics in the past 10 year, in the past year, or in the past 10 years? Maybe you clicked yes or you clicked no, and somehow one wind just came to change it.
Village people.
Or blue air on it and the thing changes. So just go back to your application first, check it. If everything is fine, then just do a web form. But the maximum delay I've seen is about 48 to 72 hours, 3 days. That's the maximum I've seen. But if it's more
Okay,
than
because a lot
that,
of people are now getting worried. Those that use agents and they've not seen biometrics from, they're like, oh, my agent has scammed me. Those are now thinking themselves like, oh, maybe the people said you don't do it yourself, use agents. I'm going to do it myself now. See, I cannot receive biometrics. So,
sometimes if you're another thing that actually comes up, um, if your agent uses a credit card that is fake or is stolen. because that
Yeah.
happens a lot where the credit card is fake or is stolen. In that way, you will still be owing money to the crown. They would send you a letter telling you that you're owing money to the crown. Your biometrics could be late, depending if the payments bounced halfway. So those are things that you would need to check to know what really is going on. Um, yeah, because sometimes it takes like 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just the same way as visas now. You could use, now we're saying 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, depending on if you've done your medicals ahead of time, you've done your police clearance and all that. So the time frames are not the same for everybody. It just depends on how you applied and what documents that you put in. But yes, if you used an agent, just verify with them that they used an actual credit card that is not stolen or fake.
Agent
If
go
you don't
green.
hear
Agent go green.
you don't hear anything in 72 hours, just raise a web form. That's the best way to take care of it.